Welcome to the Town of Corte Madera Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, March 8th, 2022. Would you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Bundy.
Here.
Commissioner Metcalf.
Here.
Commissioner Chase.
Here.
Commissioner Bendel.
Here.
And Commissioner Rizzo.
Here.
That's great. Thank you. So we have a full house. At this point of any public meeting here we open the meeting to that which is not on the agenda for public comment. So if you have something other than what's on tonight's agenda and you wish to make a public comment, you have 3 minutes to do so. You need to raise your hand if you want to make a comment or something that's not on tonight's agenda, and we'll time you if that's the case. And I will ask Tracy if she has any.
I'm going to try to do this evening. So I don't have any hands raised in terms of the attendees who are here. I will check our public comment. Actually, Tracy, if you didn't have that set up.
I do have it handy. There's no emails,
Okay,
Great.
Chair Chase.
great. Thank you. So we'll just close public comment for that which is not on tonight's agenda. And tonight on the consent calendar, we must adopt a resolution to allow us to keep having these video meetings. So do commissioners wish to discuss this meeting at all, or shall we go directly to see if there's public comment on this item?
I move to adopt.
Second.
Any public comment on this item?
Thank you. There are no hands raised.
Okay. Seeing none, then we'll close the public comment on this item and go ahead and take a roll call on the consent calendar.
Sounds like we have a motion and a second, so I will take the roll. Starting with Commissioner Bundy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bendel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rizzo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Metcalf,
Yes.
and Chairman Chase.
Yes. Great. We can keep doing this. All right.
The time being.
Yeah. Tonight we have a continued hearing for 46 Birch Avenue. This is a continuation of design review application PL 21-0081 for an 858 square foot second level addition to the existing residence at 46 Birch Avenue. What we'll do is we'll have a staff presentation, we'll have a applicant presentation, we will have a question and answers period, and then we'll go to public comment and then bring it back for discussion. So, Mr. Boyle.
Thank you, Chair Chase, and members of the Planning Commission and members of the public. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Needed to, okay, now it's one big screen, good. Okay, good evening. Yes, as Chairman Chase mentioned, pointed out, this item is 46 Birch Avenue, a continued design review hearing that you saw back in November 30th of last year, 2021. At that hearing, you heard the staff report, heard comments from the applicants, from the property owners, and discussed quite in detail the design of the home and made a number of recommendations and suggestions to the applicant and the applicant's architect and design team on how you saw that it would be more fitting to the neighborhood and a more of a design that you could support. The applicants have worked quite a bit and made a number of changes, which will be outlined here in the staff report, as well as an overview of the project itself, just in case someone is here for the first time. Project is located at 46 Birch, not too far from Lakeside Drive, on the Corte Madera Lagoon. The proposed site plan, this is, the revised proposed site plan. It's very, the only thing that's really different is this, I'll call the front left corner. This is Birch on the right-hand side. So the front left corner of the house has been notched in, where the second story element, or part of the second story element was originally, and now that's been notched in, as you saw, I'm sure, with the front elevation. So outside of that, the proposed site plan is not changed. Current views of the house as it looks today. There are new story poles were installed and were certified, showing the existing design that is proposed this evening. Just to give you an idea of the existing proposed first level, similar to what happened back in November. Basically, the 3 bedrooms, well, the master suite and 2 bedrooms and an additional bath is being reconfigured and moved around and turned into 2 bedrooms and 2.5 baths with the entryway and also the stairway. And so that's how the first floor is being reconfigured, very similar to the November design. Just things are moved in different places, but more or less the same rooms are proposed. Second story design, and showing the existing, what's there today, and then proposed, again, very similar to before, and just reconfigured in a little bit different way. And the main change is moving that front bedroom facing Birch is now moved in closer to the center of the structure. Stairway, and then master suite overlooking the backyard and the lagoon, and back deck off the master bedroom and master bath. This is existing imposed and proposed front or east elevations. Again, comes out a little bit more clear in that color elevation that you saw, and it's included with your plan set. But again, this front element has been moved closer to the center, giving some more relief and some articulation on this corner, whereas before it was quite one solid massing. You've got a breaking up of materials, stucco siding here, the vertical wood siding, same material that was proposed. I believe it's the same material that's proposed, but a darker color. Additional material that wasn't in November is this wood, the stone base accent here to provide a little bit more variety as well. The single roof line over the garage and the front door, giving a more traditional porch. And then the front balcony has been completely removed. That was a feature of the November design. So that pretty much lays out that, again, the major change is this front elevation. Existing and proposed rear elevation, not very different from November. Stucco material throughout. Second level balcony over the master suite. And then south side elevation, simplified a bit, all stucco siding, minimizing the windows for the bathrooms and the stairway to try to minimize impacts to the neighbors on the side to the south. Similar goal with the north elevation. Both of these elements in the second floor are set back quite a bit. The privacy does not appear to be an impact given the distance of these windows from the northern property line. I think I say in the staff report it's about 45 feet. So again, relatively similar to the November design on this north elevation also. Project summary, actually the second level has gained a few square feet, and the lower level, by cutting out that notch, has lost a few square feet, but overall the totals don't change. Meets all of the requirements for the R1 zoning district. Another change is that building actually went down 2 inches. The November building was 25 feet 4. This one's 25 feet too. Neighbors, the applicants reached out to the neighbors once again and contacted them and received support from all of them. Same group that they received back in November, and no comments in opposition and no additional comments came to staff as a result of the notice and the story polls. This again just showing that this area is certainly getting more and more second stories as we go along. It just gives you an idea of how many second story additions have happened in this neighborhood in the past decades or so. Examples of some second stories that exist today and that are recently approved, all these on Birch nearby. And then that basically staff, was able to make all the findings. Again, there was no need for a shade study. There was no opposition in terms of view, and staff didn't feel there was an issue of view in walking around the neighborhood, and no opposition in terms of privacy either. And so staff is able to make all of the design review findings and feels like the applicant has responded to the request of the Planning Commission. And I've attached a resolution, and staff recommends approval of this application. And I have the design review findings here, if any of those you want to review. And the applicant, of course, is here, the applicant's architect, and I'm open to any questions that you have. This is just another picture of, here's today's proposal, and this is November's proposal. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you, Phil. Very concise there. So, commissioners, I will open this up to see all the commissioners here that I can. Do you have any questions for Mr. Boyle? I'll start with you, Margaret. Do you have any questions for Phil?
I do. I want to ask, only because I'm a skeptic at heart, about the FEMA and the special flood area, hazard area. You said that there's a $1.4 million value, and the cost estimate is $650,000, which is just under the threshold of $700,000.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
What does that include? I know most buildings have a 10% addition to the cost. Does that include what might be a runover cost?
That I believe it is, and the applicant's contractor is here, and I included, of course, the revised appraisal and a very recent cost estimate, and I can bring that up if you like. But to answer your question, Commissioner Mandel, I believe it does include a 10% or percentage contingency cost. I can look at that, or the applicant can
And
speak
does
to
that
that
also
directly.
include the overruns that people are feeling now on materials because of the pandemic and distributions?
Yeah, I'll have to defer again to the applicant and their contractor in terms of specifics of how that this estimate was created.
Okay, I have another question, Phil, on there was a sentence that I didn't quite understand in your report on it. The last sentence under the section exterior materials.
Okay.
It says any damaged landscaping will be replanted and replaced per the owner's request. What does that mean, per the owner's request? The owner is going to request replace?
Yeah, I think that must have been a typo. I think I meant to say, any damaged landscaping is to be replaced yeah, any damaged landscaping is to be replaced. I mean,
Well,
not
they-
every single thing, but that's just a general, a general request and condition that we ask that the applicants, put the front of the house back, to a similar condition than it was when they began the project. Though we certainly understand there's some loss of landscaping in the construction process.
But they are the owners of that property.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Then I don't know if this is the right time to ask this, but in the design review required findings on number 4, you seem to be, or whoever wrote made the evaluation, seems to be somewhat not opinionated, but not really in favor of the south elevation and the north elevation. You said it's a one continuous plane resulting in a missed opportunity to provide additional articulation. Was that something you felt was a deficiency?
I wasn't really, casting an opinion whether it was good or bad. I was just pointing out that, one of the design review findings is articulation. One of the general plan findings is a variety of materials. And so just pointing that out to the commission, that both those side elevations are fairly singular in their use of exterior materials and in a wall plane. That was a little bit the case in November. It's a little bit more of a case actually in this design. And also at the same time, that's some that has happened in the past, with side elevations, particularly side elevations that are very close, to the neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Those were my questions.
Thank you. Dr. Bundy, do you have any questions for Bill?
I think I would just make a comment in regard to FEMA, in that in Madera Gardens, while they are in the floodplain, this is a floodplain if all of the features that have been put into place by engineering, Department of Public Works over the years failed, that there could be flooding here. But they are actually protected by levees as well as the High Canal Pump Station. And so I guess I wouldn't get too critical about whether they're going, over 50% or how they're doing in relationship to that. I mean, they could have left, some aspects of the cost of this project off, such as they could have done a garage door at a later date or a new front door at a later date. Now, if this was a neighbor of mine in Mariner Cove, I would have maybe pushed them to think about raising the threshold to base flood 11, because in Mariner Cove, we're not protected by levees or pump stations. We're sort of subject to tidal flooding from storm surges, king tides, and sea level rise. But I just really want to point out the difference between being in a flood zone in Madera Gardens and being in a flood zone in some place like where I live, Mariner Cove.
Thank you, Dr. Bundy. Yeah. Okay, that's it, Bob?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Rizzo.
Yeah, I got a question just about the overall square footage of the lot. The site plan is showing a different dimensions than the survey, and the survey is differing from the county assessor's number. But yet the map aligns with the survey. So and what you guys are showing here. So I'm assuming that just the site plan is incorrect on their overall dimensions of the property line. Can I make that assumption and that we're using a number from the site plan? I mean, from the survey?
From the survey, yeah. Yeah, we use when there are discrepancies in numbers, and often there are discrepancies in surveys versus county records, we use the surveyed the license survey that the applicant provides as the correct number.
And I hate to pound you on the flood, because I'm the third one to bring it up, but was any of the lot under the 6.2 feet nabbed that we take the net square footage from?
A small section, but again, this is on the lagoon, not on the open water, but there is a small section of the back that is below 6.4.
So does that not apply? It's only open water where that floor area net calculation applies?
Well, the code mentions when the property line goes into the lagoon, then that area is not counted. And when water bodies or waterways measuring 6.2 or less.
Oh, so it's only the water body. It's not the elevation of the land.
No, it's the elevation of the land that is adjacent to a water body. And if that elevation of the land adjacent to a water body or waterway is 6.2 or less, then like in Bob's neighborhood, then that area is not counted. And then for lagoons, as it states in the code, for water area within Lagoon 1 or Lagoon 2, it's area that is within that lagoon, and that's where we use the survey to determine that.
So it's only the area of the dock that's getting pulled out of the net calc? Because
In the
some of the
survey-
backyards it is lower than 6.2.
Right, that area of the dock that's projecting into the lagoon.
So the land that's adjacent to the lagoon, but it's less than 6. So I'm trying to get a feel for how the code is reading it, because some of the yard is less than 6.2 and it's adjacent to the lagoon. So I didn't know if that applied to it or not.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the code here where it delineates, it distinguishes when it gives us our calculation and how we determine net area of land.
Yeah.
And basically the first two ways to determine net area of land is one, water area within Lagoon 1 or 2. And
Yeah.
it gives us an aerial example of that. And then the second is water bodies and waterways measured at 6.2 NAVD. Does that make sense?
Sort of. I could dig into it more. I mean, you know the code better than I do. I was just checking because I saw in the survey that parts of the backyard were under 6.2, and I didn't know if that was part of reducing the actual square footage of the calculation for the net total against FAR.
Right.
But I mean, I'm going to take it that you have the expertise in the code. I was just trying to figure that out.
Sure.
Sounds like it's just a waterway.
Yes, and correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but I believe that's the way. That's the way we looked at this project on the previous two hearings.
I'm shaking his head. Okay. So he's not, you're muted, Adam. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to rely on Phil's assessment of this.
Okay.
As he has more familiarity with this specific project than I do at this point.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Rizzo?
Not for Phil. Thank you.
Okay. Phyllis, do you have any questions for Mr. Boyle?
No, but I would like to respond or articulate something that Phil said having to do with finding 4. And I don't think the fact that they are side elevations, that they need more articulation. They're very close, to the neighbors. And the fact that they are not rectangles. You see on the left elevation, you know, how the roof line goes up and changes, the windows break it up. And even more so on the right elevation with the chimney, that, as I say, it's not like it's a blank rectangle that has
Ooh.
nothing happening with it. So I would certainly accept the way they are.
We,
Okay,
we're gonna get into that into our discussion.
okay, but
Yeah.
Phil had commented on it and I
Yeah.
was just reiterating that I have no other questions or
Okay.
comments at this point.
All right. Phil, the appraisal puts the value of the house at 2.6. Is that correct? Roughly?
It puts the value of the home and the land at 2.6, and it puts what they call what's called the depreciated improvements, which is the structure, at 1.4.
I see.
Hmm.
Okay.
And that's what FEMA uses for estimating the value of the structure.
Got it. All right. So that means that they value the land at, I mean, if you did the math, FEMA's got nothing to do with the appraisal report. So there's a difference there of over $1 million just for the lot. Then, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sadly, there isn't a good control here. So, all right. Just out of curiosity, what do you guys do when you have these initial estimates and they put it down on the building permit application and you have a dollar number and then things happen and the price goes up? How is that addressed in any way, shape, or form other than just more permit fees? Does that roll back to you know?
Yeah, it's a very risky proposition because the requirement is that if they do go above that 50% threshold through the cost of the project, it will require the house to be raised. And that is not a rule we have much real ability to have any forgiveness on as the floodplain administrator for the town and responsible for all of the town's insurance costs. As a result, we get audited on that very issue by FEMA. So we have to take that very seriously. And Public Works Department and the engineering department there are the ones that really watch that that number, so to speak. And certainly it comes into play, especially if there are revisions to a project. And that then gets circulated through the building permit process again. And we'll look at that very closely. So it's something that all our applicants really need to be aware of. And at this point in the process, we don't dig. We certainly go through a very rigorous sort of analysis, I would say, in terms of just asking the applicants to be aware of this issue, provide the information, and then certainly when you get down to the building permit and they submit for a building permit, those costs become even clearer and they're more well known because you're into a new set of plans, and engineering and specs and all those things start to attach numbers to those things.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. So it is time for the applicant to make their presentation.
And sorry, just one, I think, Phil, you were, just to go back on the code question about net area of land, I think you were referring to section, let's see if it's the 1808-220 G4, is that the one? And that's what Phil's reading from, and it's correct. I mean, he's recited sort of in the R1 zoning district. That's how you deal with it. It does become a problem, I think, Commissioner Rizzo, if you're not in the R1 zone And in other zones, then there isn't this specificity, and the code didn't actually take into account the issue that you're bringing up, which is pieces of land can be below 6.2 feet NABD, such as the movie theater site, and they're nowhere near any water bodies or anything like that. So it creates problems
Right.
there. But it does address it, and it has been addressed in the R1 district. It's probably something we need to do for other districts as well.
Okay, very good. All right, so for the applicant, we have the applicant there, we have an architect, and we have a builder here. So who's going to speak first?
I'm happy to start. This is Steve Rivera and my wife, Allie Rivera, and it's nice to see all of you again for the third time. Phil, thank you for the presentation, and thank you to the commission for hearing us again. I sent a letter this week, and I just wanted to reiterate some of the things in that letter, which are our family's getting bigger. We're working from home more. We're in a home that we love and we want to be in for the rest of our lives. We just need a little bit more space. And so we've been trying to build this home in lockstep with our design team and our contractor, and most importantly with our neighbors, to get what we need and to get what they need. And as you can imagine, that's been a bit of a jigsaw puzzle that I think we have finally solved. We feel really good about the product that we're putting in front of you. Last meeting, you guys had some comments regarding the massing in the front and some of the materials. We spent some time going back to the drawing board, and I think we've done a good job at hearing what you guys had to say. I actually really appreciate your comments because in retrospect, they were spot on. And we're at a point now where we have 100% neighbor support, even more than is outlined in that presentation with all the stars. We've got other neighbors that I just didn't even, put on there because up and down that block, I believe we have the support. And some of them are here today to make a few comments. But either way, I'm really excited about where we are. And I hope that, we've listened to everything that you guys had to say and put it into this plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I have my design team on the call, Christina Gulino and Ryan Perella, and I have Ash Havens, our contractor, on the call. So we should be here for anything you need. So please don't hesitate.
Well, that's great. How would you like to continue with your end of the presentation? Would you like the architect to proceed?
It's totally your call, perhaps because I have some neighbors on the phone that were going to voice their support, and I'd like to make it so that they don't have to continue to stay on the call if they don't want to. Maybe they can talk. I don't know. You would think by now I'd know how this thing works, but
So what we'll do is that we will allow public comment to come into this after you guys are through with your presentation. So that said, if you would like to have further discussion by your architect about the design or represent anything in particular about that design, then by all means do so. If you'd like the builder to speak to this new design, that's another option that you have. But I would like to give you the opportunity to put your best foot forward with anyone you wish to, and then we'll move on to public comment.
Okay, great. Then I will ask Ryan and or Christina if they would like to add anything to the presentation that I haven't or that Phil hasn't. And if not, that's okay. You can make yourself available for questions.
We can speak really briefly. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Yes, Phil did do a very good job with the presentation. Just to speak really briefly about, what this redesign does. It's some of the changes may appear subtle, but by modifying that form, I think we've really been able to express more of the existing house, more of the existing roof lines, organize the massing much together and allow that two-story element to be more central and kind of bring that massing off of the corner where it felt a little uneven and unweighted. So I think we've been able to pull the weighting together more to the center of the house and, provide a little more interest and offset, facing both of the directions. And I think it just allows that original, the original roof line connects everything together. I think it just allows it to feel a little more like a modification on the original house instead of, a brand new concept. I don't know if we have anything else to add.
I agree. It's been
We're here
said,
for your
and we're here for your
questions.
questions, but
Okay,
time, yes.
well, if that's all that you would like to present, Steve, or then we'll move on, but go ahead, Ash.
Hi, how's it going? I just want to answer a couple questions. Margaret had asked about the estimate and a 10% overage costs. I have a 15% overhead profit within the budget already. But if you remove that and you add another 10% to the actual hard cost of the building, and you add that same 15% back in, we're still right around that $700,000 threshold. So that has been accounted for. Most of my numbers, I'm not sure if anyone has had a chance to look through them, but I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have. You brought up things like, garage doors. We have $9,000 in the budget. That's quite sufficient for most garage doors. And Peter, you had a question about additional costs and when those come up. I did a job at 9 Arrowhead last year, and post approval, we had 2 pretty major changes. They decided to redo the master bathroom, and the plan was to only do siding on the new addition on the 2nd floor and leave the existing stucco. They decided that they loved the siding, so we removed the stucco and redid the siding. Myself and the architect on that project reached out to Phil. We let them know what we wanted to do. We provided numbers for that. We fell within the allowance, and so we moved forward. So typically when we have a major change, especially something, that's that impactful, that's kind of the approach that we'll take. If it's a matter of like, oh, well, we want to change out our front door, that's not really something that's going to impact that overall scope. So it's not so much of a big deal. But when there's a major change, when you're, changing the existing siding completely throughout, or you want to add one more window in or whatever it may be, that's kind of, from my experience, what we've done. And this is definitely the earliest I've ever been involved on a project before. Usually I have a full set of drawings and engineered drawings, but I've been talking to Steve for over 1.5 years on this job. And I know we're all pretty excited to try to see it moving forward, but I'm more than happy to answer any other questions you might have concerning budget or numbers or anything like that, if anyone has any additional questions.
Well, now that we've got all 3 of you, we'll do just that. Phyllis, you raised your hand.
Yes, I think this is for the contractor. I am looking at the materials page, and I am just curious, what exactly is Accoya pre-finished flint rock? That's the vertical wood siding. Is that prefabricated wood, actual wood? And what do they mean by pre-finished in its description?
I think that might be a better question for the team over here, architect team.
Okay, I said I didn't know which one.
It's okay.
50% chance went the wrong way.
It's okay.
Accoya, it is a natural wood. It's a thermally treated wood. So it's a natural pine product that's been treated so that it's, impervious to rot and mildew. And so it's a natural wood, and pre-finished just means the stain is applied at the mill instead of in field.
Okay.
Just for longevity and, lack of maintenance. So
And consistency, right?
Sounds good. Okay, thank you.
And I'm happy to share a link to the specification sheet of that product.
I would like to see that myself. So,
Sure.
yes. Mr. Rizzo, do you have any questions for this team?
I just, I have a few. The slope over the new little bathroom of the roof, is that going to be the same slope as the garage, or the same slope as the new roofs?
the same slope as the garage, correct?
Which is 412, and then you'll have a 612 up top.
Yes.
Okay. And then my second question is that the stone material wasn't on the, it's on a description, but it's not shown as a picture. Do you have an idea of what type of stone that's going to be on the base of the vertical wood siding element?
Type will be a limestone.
So it'll be a darker limestone.
Here, yes. Yes.
Will it be that ashlar pattern, or what kind of pattern are you thinking? Is it going to be more of a regular pattern because it's a
I
modern
think
house?
it will be more of an ashlar as drawn.
Okay. And is it part of the facade, or is it a planter?
Part of the
It's more of
facade.
a facade, yes.
Okay.
It was a design intent, there was a lot of talk last time about the verticality of that element to try to, give it a base and break it up with materials so it didn't read such a strong vertical element on the front facade.
And would you guys be open, if it comes down to somebody not liking that side elevation, to maybe adding the wood underneath that gable, the master? Because that would kind of tie in everything over there and break it up facing the neighbor to the south. I mean, yeah, the south.
Yeah, we could certainly look at,
I was just, looking at, I know two of the commissioners brought it up, and it could be a good solve for breaking up that facade and pushing them
yeah, we
in
could
the
certainly.
direction you guys want to go. Like, I was just trying to look at it. Didn't look like it would cost any more money, and it might break up that facade and
I
and,
agree. Yeah, we
and
could
help.
definitely.
yeah. Okay, so if it comes down to a condition like that, I'll bring it up
Okay,
again. So that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
thank you.
Hey, Margaret, do you have any questions for this design team?
I don't, thanks, Phil.
Okay. All right, and Dr. Bundy, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I did have a question just in regard to the two chimneys. I see the one on the north end with the original fireplace, and I was having trouble figuring out where the fireplace is for this central chimney.
It's stacked both in the living room and in the one that's in the center of the
Yes.
house. It's on the lower floor. It's in the living room, and then you'll see it in the master bedroom on the second floor. There's an offset in them, but we'll deal with that with the proper.
So currently there's the central fireplace in the living room on the first floor.
Yep.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. I guess the only other comment that I would make in regard to the elevations in the 6.2 is that this is on the water, but this is a controlled lagoon, not subject to tidal action of any kind. So it's sort of different than being in my neighborhood with 6.2 elevation subject to tidal action.
Thank you.
Nice design.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, so I think that I don't have any questions, so I'm going to turn this directly over to public comment at this point. We've got some people on the line here, and
Okay,
got 3 minutes for anyone who wants to comment.
sure. I am going to allow the first public commenter to speak who has their hand raised, Mary and Liam Cooney. I'm going to press allow to talk, so you should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, hi, everyone. Thank you so much. We just wanted to speak. This is Mary Cooney. I'm here with my husband, Liam. I just wanted to speak on behalf of the Riveras and give our vote of confidence and support to this project. We currently live at 38, well, I'm sorry, we have a home at 38 Birch that is being renovated by the wonderful Ash Havens, who's here on the call right now. And we are living in the Rivera's home as they are in LA for the year, which gives you a sense of just how close this neighborhood is. We are 100% supportive of this project and have been from the get-go. The design is beautiful, and the second design is even greater. It's wonderful, and I think it blends in really nicely with what we're doing to our house at 38, as well as the other houses that are on the block. And I don't think it stands out at all in any negative way. In fact, we think it's going to be very complimentary to our new home. And we love the Riveras. They're wonderful neighbors, and we give them all of our support.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Okay, I'm going to now allow the next speaker to speak, Scotty Spurzum.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Scotty's actually my wife. This is Carl.
Hi, Carl.
Yeah, she's right here as well.
Sorry, that's okay.
No worries at all. Her real name's Louisiana, but we won't go there. I just want to say I'm same with Mary and Liam. We're at 73 Lakeside. We're 4 houses away from the Rivera's house. I mean, they're obviously great stewards to the Marquardt Lagoon. And I would suggest there's talk about costs and such. There's a chance costs may go down. We're obviously in a spike in many materials costs, lumber, et cetera. So as much as people worry costs may go up, there's a chance costs could actually go down in this situation. So that's one thing I might suggest there. I mean, I would just, very supportive of the project, very supportive of the Riveras, and they bring a lot to the lagoon besides this. And Ash is a great guy. He's working on the Cooney's house next door to us. And now 2 houses down, I hope he's working on the Rivera's house. So I think it's a wonderful design and I'm very supportive of it, but both Scotty and I are.
Okay.
Thank you
very much.
Okay, the next speaker I'm going to allow to talk will be, at least on my screen says Sarah, so you can unmute yourself.
Okay, well, I am on Sarah's computer, but this is Pete Chris. I'm at 54 Birch, so I'm 2 doors down. And I guess the support I would offer, because it is 100% support, is that, not all designs are created equal. And I am so impressed with how well this design works amongst the other houses and in this area. And I think it really adds a really nice sense of style. And we all want to live in a beautiful neighborhood. We all really are close and love our neighbors. And I think this is doing nothing but really improving the neighborhood. And so, we enthusiastically support the Riveras as a family and as a design, in addition to the neighborhood with the new home, really fully. So there's not a lot more I can say, but I'm like, we think this is a beautiful house, and I think everyone should be pretty impressed as to how they've responded to, designing it, building it, and quite frankly, the rallying the community around, the efforts that they put into it.
Okay.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
Okay, and it looks like we have one more hand raised. This is Mike Stresser. I think can unmute yourself and please speak.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Mike Strasser. We're kind of kitty corner across the street over at 49 Birch. And we moved into our home about 3 years ago. It's one of the 2nd-story homes in the neighborhood. And we've been very supportive of all the things that the Riveras have been doing. They've been very kind to us as we moved into our neighborhood, and everyone else in our neighborhood also is an amazing group of people. And this is a really beautiful design. I definitely support it. It looks really nice how they've incorporated the 2nd floor. It's probably even less menacing than our house is. So it's certainly, it's amazing what this process you guys go through. It's really, this is the first planning commission meeting I've been to, and it's really hats off to you for the level of thought that goes into the design and review of all these buildings. And it's clearly come out with a better process, with a better outcome. It's cool to see that the architects and even the builders are all here in support. So I just wanted to voice my support for this construction, and we look forward to seeing that building in the neighborhood.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Mike.
Mike.
Thank you.
All right, and I don't have any other hands raised. I'll do a quick check of the public comment email inbox, and I do not have any emails into the inbox. So I believe we are done with our public comment at this time.
Very good. I think we are. So we will just go ahead and close the public comment section of this agenda item. We'll take it back to the commission to start discussing this project. I think we heard some interesting commentary from the commissioners. I'll start with you, Mr. Rizzo. Your thoughts about this project?
Okay. First, I'd just like to say that I'd encourage the applicants just to go down there and figure out what their square footage is on the MLS, because you know that you could probably $40,000-$50,000 on the table that could pay for some of these planning costs. Yeah. So I think that your house could be, I don't know what the MLS says, but the county assessor sure has it wrong. So definitely encourage you to increase your value of your property. And although I brought up the 6.2 NAV, I think that the scale of the house is good for this lot in this neighborhood. So I just bring it up because it's part of our due diligence. But I do think the house doesn't feel like it's too big for the lot one bit. It's just one of the ordinances that we look at. I think that they've made great strides moving the design. I think it looks a lot more balanced, moving the volume over from just a little bit the larger volume in the front. So I think it's a lot more attractive from the street. I like the materials, and moving to the findings. I think by having the massing of that second story a little bit, actually a lot offset from the neighbor to the north, it really allows a lot of sunlight and privacy over that side of the property. I thought that, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it definitely allows for the light to penetrate into the neighbor's yard. Don't really have that opportunity to the neighbor to the south because the sun's over the direction over there. And then, so that's finding 3 that I completely agree with. And finding 4, where we talk about the scale of the project with the neighborhood, I think with the neighborhood getting built up, it's becoming easier and easier to approve these projects. And I walked the neighborhood today and last week, and I really feel like this neighborhood becoming very, very interesting. I know when this whole process of second story started, it was scary, but really starting to feel like this neighborhood's really coming together to be a very interesting composition. Everybody seems to be building lots of different unique properties. So I could make the findings to approve this tonight. I might encourage the applicants to take a look at the facade to the north, no, to the south, if maybe consider breaking that up if the other commissioners desire that look to be that view to be kind of scaled down with a different material. But I don't have a problem with the design, and I would and I don't have a problem making the findings to approve this. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rizzo, thank you for that. Dr. Bundy.
Gee, I don't think I've heard such a love fest in support of a project since Amy's drive-through. I think it's a nice design. I can make all the findings. I think it will fit in nicely in the neighborhood.
Well, that's certainly very concise, Bob. Okay. That's all you got to say. All right.
That's all I got to say.
Okay, very good. All right. Margaret, I'm interested in what you're thinking.
First, I want to say I think it's a huge improvement. I really think this makes a big difference in the way that it looks from the street and the balance of the whole thing. I'm glad that the roof line, the the roof line over the garage kind of continues over the other piece. Is that a bathroom on the side of the front? To the,
Well,
to the, is that a bathroom?
That's correct.
I think, I also looked through the neighborhood. And it is an interesting neighborhood. And I think this is something, it's a little different than the typical house in that neighborhood. And I think it has a lot of elements of what's already there. So I think it fits in nicely. I'm kind of interested, Jim, in what you were saying about carrying that wood material over to the side. Could you, I think the wood element is just a little isolated, and if it could be carried out somewhere else, it might make it feel more in one with the rest of the house. But otherwise, and in spite of that, I could make all the findings.
Good. I wonder, Phil, if you might be able to throw that up on a screen to have something visual to look at.
Yeah, the south elevation, is that correct, Mr. Rizzo? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a few things that could be done. Like, so that kind of where those three little windows are, and you got the gable, yeah. Just bringing the material down in that area where just below the gable. So basically the width of the master suite could break up that volume, but you could also carry that around the back and then around that whole upper floor and really break it down if you wanted to, but I don't know if it's that necessary. This was just the elevation that that Margaret was kind of commenting on. The other one's kind of set back. Of course, you could, like I said, you could carry that material around that whole volume if you wanted to, and it would tie into everything very nicely. But that's, I don't want to redesign it. That's not our job. I just was responding to how to break up a volume on that one facade. But they can carry it around the whole thing if they wanted to, and really break it up even further, so it's not so much stucco.
I will address that when I make a comment, but I agree that the materials that are differing on the upper elevation, I think they work as they're drawn. Anyway, Margaret, what else did you have to say there?
That's all I had to say. That I think the design is great for that neighborhood, and I think it's an improvement, and I appreciate the fact that everyone in that neighborhood gets along so beautifully. I want to move there. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, great. It's very nice to hear. Phyllis, where do you stand?
I can certainly make the findings. I appreciate the change in design. I felt the other one was overbearing. And now that it's gone, I can say that one of my adult sons who was visiting happened to have seen the other one and wanted to know why there was an outhouse attached to the building, that lower level with the wood. So I'm sure Ryan will be very pleased when I tell him it's gone. It looks fine. It looks very good. It fits with the neighborhood. You don't want a bunch of homes that look the same. It's not a track in that sense. There is a nexus between this design and other designs in the neighborhood. And I would not change the side elevations because I don't think breaking up that articulation, to me, it's going to look choppy. The windows, as I say, break it up. The roof line makes it's not just one blank rectangle that's going to be facing the neighbor. And as I say, the homes are close together in the sense I would leave it as designed right now. And the wood section stands out as by itself, and it's not competing with other wood sections. So as I say, I would make the findings exactly as it appears before us now.
I would agree with you, Phyllis. I think that the wood isolated with the stucco looks better rather than having a continuation of that material around the side of the house. That's my feeling about it. I think that the shape of the wood pop out on the front is enough of a departure from the local architecture to give this some uniqueness. And yet there are pieces of this design that do connect with the other homes in the area. So it's sort of a bridge, and it's nice to see something reaching out a little bit from the typical design. So I think they've made the right strides, and I think that it's approvable as it is.
Peter, I think the only problem they may have is having the Coonies who love the house so much move out when their own house is ready.
I don't know what to say.
Hope the Coonies move out and remain friends.
Right. So with that said, I will ask for a motion for this item.
I would make the motion in the matter of design review application PL 21-081 for a 858 square foot second level addition to the existing residence at 46 Birch Avenue.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take the roll, starting with Commissioner Rizzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Bendel,
Yes.
Commissioner Bundy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Metcalf,
Yes.
and Chairman Chase.
Yes. Mr. Boyle, you want to read?
Yes. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman Chase. Any decision of the Planning Commission may be appealed to the Town Council within 10 calendar days of this evening. Appeal forms are available at the Planning Department and also on the town's website, and there's a $300 filing fee.
Mr. Havens, you're going to be a busy guy, and I won't go into an analyzation of your construction budget, but you're very reasonable. Let's just say that.
And I wrote your name down in case I ever need something.
Right. Okay, so you guys can depart. And
Thank
good
you
luck.
all very much.
Thank
We really
you.
appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Okay,
All right.
we're back to just us chickens. So, all right.
Looks like it, except, yeah, if some attendees still here, but
Yeah. At this point, we have a commissioner report section that somebody might report on the last town council meeting.
I am the one who attended
Yes, Phyllis.
or Zoomed or whatever.
Well, I did the one before.
Uh-huh.
Oh, why don't we have the report on the one Margaret did first, and then I'll do
Yes.
it.
That'd be great.
And it was a very short meeting because if you remember, it was the meeting right after the town council joint meet with the town council joint meeting. And the meeting, most of the time was taken up with Todd Cusimano talking about the project, the hotel project. And he went into the background of the project. He highlighted that how different the plan, current plan is from the previous plans. In the presentation that followed, it showed that they did change the window panels from the random panels to the repeating patterned. So that was one thing that we had said at the Planning Commission that we didn't like, was just the random panels on the side. And they did not change the Y columns, what I'm calling the Y column supports in the front. He did show different alternatives that they had come up with. But the town council said, no, they were gonna leave it alone. People said there were too many cooks in the kitchen. So that was like, I don't know. And both Fred and Eli liked the columns the way they were. So RJ talked about very briefly about that intersection that's there and the crossing and what they might do. And he talked about the possible roundabout they might put in there. And so, and actually that was probably the biggest part of the meeting. There was a little bit about different postings of notices and hearings and ordinances, and they're resetting the posting places because of the move that the town hall has made now. So usually they post it at the town hall. Now it's moved, I guess, to the new town hall. And that was about it. It was short.
They approved that hotel in short order. Yes, that was great. Thank you. All right, Ms. Phyllis.
Okay, this is the meeting of March the 1st. And before I explain the business that the council took care of, I would like to make a mention about something that happened at open time, which I personally found rather disgusting. Some woman took it upon herself to do an ongoing personal attack of the town manager that had everybody sitting back, in shock, accusing him of everything but murder, wanting to know why he was paid as much as he was. I mean, she just went on and on and on. And apparently this woman has been trolling Todd since he was the police chief and has made threats against him and his family. And I'm hoping at some point, this is not the place to discuss it, but even though we are not supposed to comment on items not on the agenda, and I thought that Fred, as the mayor, handled as best as he could saying that, so we didn't have to respond to the woman, that we should probably talk about how we stop that, because that goes beyond free speech. And I mean, anybody who was listening to the meeting and obviously looking at the council members and staff were just shocked by this woman's diatribe, I'll call it. So that's what I have to say. I don't know if any of the others of you were watching that meeting, but you would have seen it. Okay, one of the main things of the meetings, there was almost an hour, was a presentation on an update of the Larkspur Corte Madera School District done by the superintendent. They're going to be putting another parcel tax on the ballot. I don't know if it'll be on the June ballot or the November ballot, but I've already received mail on it. So coming up. And there was a public hearing that was really became complicated and shouldn't have been, because it was an extension of the urgency ordinance that had been issued due to, what was it, SB 9. And I guess the original, Adam could probably feel about it, it was like for 45 days. But then if you're not prepared at the end of 45 days, you can extend it as much to be a total of 1 year. And some people spoke to it who certainly didn't want it extended and admitted that they wanted to split their lot and do building. And Charles Lee was wonderful. He explained that the job of the council was to serve the residents, plural, of our community, and decisions could not be made for one resident. And he did it very well. He was not pejorative in any way, but he explained why he felt, and obviously the other council members agreed with him, should go ahead with extending this. And Adam, you may want to give some details of exactly what's going on with that ordinance.
Are you done reporting on that?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to elaborate a little bit. I think one of the, I don't think the council members, I think we're all in agreement as to extending the urgency ordinance. There is one small issue that I think Mayor Beckman and also one of the council members, Mongan, sort of thought there might be some benefit to allow for slightly larger homes or unit sizes under the urgency ordinance. The cap right now is, as you may know, and I think we've talked about this, is 1,000 square feet for any unit built pursuant to Senate Bill 9. And it was just the sort of proposal that was put forward was going up to 1,200 square feet. And it's sort of, in a way, we discussed the relationship between those SB 9 units and accessory dwelling units, and that accessory dwelling units can go a little bit higher if they have design review, et cetera, et cetera. So that was sort of ultimately what the discussion came down to, and it ultimately was decided not to make that change and to just continue with the existing urgency ordinance as it was written. We, staff and Ann and Martha, there were some sort of cleanups to the language and clarifications that we felt needed to be made. As you're aware, the first ordinance that was written, obviously they're urgency ordinance for a reason. They tend to go in pretty quickly, and then you look at it and say, oh, we should make, it wasn't entirely clear, certain language. So those were the only real things that were changed for this ordinance. And now it's extended for 10 and a half more months up until I think it's January of 2023. It could be, or February, I might be mistaken. So that's where we are now. The council did ask timing for a permanent ordinance that the staff would work on, and whether we could make piecemeal changes to it. And really, I think ultimately the direction and my response was that it's better to come back with a full package of SB 9, like a permanent ordinance, and that likely wouldn't be able to happen until later, the latter part of the year, given everything else that we're doing on the housing front. So that's the conversation around SB 9. I would just say the town council was very appreciative of the hotel project and the work that everyone had put into the project, including the planning commissioners and the ordinance before that, the applicant, in the way that it came back as a much better project. So a lot of support there. I know the last meeting, the Mayor Beckman reported out that the Chamber of Commerce, of course, is thrilled with that, that will be moving forward. And it does look like they do want to submit a building permit sometime in 2022. I can tell you that. And I'm sort of drafting a letter now to facilitate a discussion between Renison, PG&E, and the property owners on Tamil Vista regarding the undergrounding aspect of that project, which needs to get underway quickly. So things are moving already on that front with the hotel. Other than that, I did want to follow up on a couple of things. One, we do have tomorrow night our last housing element workshop. So our 6th workshop, which will not focus so much on the site inventory and the specific sites that we're looking to facilitate housing on, but focus more on the CEQA, the next steps, which is going to be the environmental analysis that's required as part of this, and will also be focused on programs and policies. And we have a new survey that we really are going to try to push people to take in the next 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. So please do get on there. There's no harm in all of our commissioners and others that you may know taking that survey, as that will help inform programs and policies that we want to include in the draft housing element. And what else? I believe I am, well, I would just say that obviously I wanted to thank the commissioners for the joint meeting and taking that additional time. Very helpful to move forward with the site inventory that allows us to do the CEQA review. So that is a great step forward. And I may be forgetting something, but I know there's one other thing, but I can't remember. Oh, I did. This isn't the greatest news, but I did want to inform you that we did receive actually an appeal from both parties related to 78 Granada. So we have two appellants, which I can tell you I've never seen before, but that will be going to the town council, and they will be hearing from both the homeowners of 78 Granada and also the neighbors regarding the planning commission's appealing the planning commission's decision on that. So I'm not going to comment further on that, but it is an unusual. It will be I think March. I'm sorry, April. The first meeting in April, town council meeting in April 5th will be that appeal hearing. No appeal was filed for the 622 Oakdale project. So that, and apparently we were told that the applicants reached out to the neighbors who had concerns, and all were, it ended amicably. So that was good to hear. But in any case, those are just reporting on some of the recent activity, and we continue to work on a variety of things. One of the things we are going to be likely bringing at the next meeting a discussion on our inclusionary housing ordinance, and just a more of a workshop information sharing about what that is and what it does, and letting you know we've been working on that for some time now as part of a group effort along with other Marin County jurisdictions. Something we is in our current housing element that we work on and update, and so that's what this will be about. But more to come on that, and we'll see a staff report coming out next week for that item. Anything else, Phil? Anything else I'm missing that you could think of? No.
Sure. I'd like to. I had something to ask Adam having to do with SB 9. If somebody wants to go over the allotted square footage on an ADU, they do it not through the ADU rules process, but have to do it through the regular planning process. And I'm wondering, with SB 9, this couple that wanted to split their lots and their lot and do a bunch of stuff, if they didn't follow SB 9, which gives them a lot of steps they do not have to go through, if they went through the regular planning process like they would for an ordinary home, could it be done then? Is that option available?
It's a very good point, and yes, something that is a possibility is that you can utilize SB 9 to split your lot and theoretically go through a normal discretionary process for the actual construction of a home on that new lot. It's something that we're figuring out how, and it may present some challenges doing it that way, but obviously the findings would still have to be made by the staff or planning commission, and most likely the planning commission in that instance. And so it would be something that, when the time came, we obviously evaluate. But yes, that is a possibility.
But the lot split would still be SB 9.
The lot split would be ministerial through SB 9, and then theoretically somebody could build a house pursuant to the design review process.
If you
Okay,
want to
because I
avoid-
read through that SB 9, I couldn't find anything, so thank you.
SB 9 does not speak directly to this issue. It doesn't forbid it, it doesn't allow it.
Correct.
Which you would think leaves room for a discretionary process for that, for the new lot. But I do have to say, although I believe Adam is right, there's no law in this yet. There's no, SB 9 is not an easy statute to interpret because there is some vagueness in it and there's been no case law on it.
So we would not, we, the town, would not encourage anybody to follow, do the discretionary route like this particular couple who wanted to do something tomorrow if they could, to follow splitting under SB 9 and then going discretionary.
I wouldn't sort of comment on whether we're discouraging or encouraging applicants. We, at this point, we inform them what the options are, and it's their decision as to what they want to pursue.
But the difficulty, case law. It's good, no case law. It will depend a lot on the lot, because if you take away SB 9, then the only right they have is to an ADU. They don't have a right to a second unit on that lot other than an ADU. So when they give up the ministerial process of SB 9, they're giving up any guarantee that they'll get more than an ADU on that lot.
Thank you, Sacramento legislators.
Yes, indeed.
Well, there was just that article in the paper about San Francisco and SB 9 that talked about how they were trying to go just throw it out the window. They can afford the lawyers.
I didn't see that.
How are they going to do that, Peter?
Anyways,
they're
They get rid of single family. They're basically going to allow fourplexes everywhere.
Yeah, fourplex.
Yeah, and what that will accomplish, I couldn't tell you right now, and I hate to say this, but I'm not really confident in the Chronicle reporting on these issues.
There's an affordable housing group in the city that's very active, tied in with Scott Wiener's bills and stuff. And I'm on the mailing list where I get a weekly report. And that's why I saw it, which had far more information than the Chronicle.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, just walk through how it would be done. It seems rather interesting, but the fact that San Francisco is a charter city gives them far more leeway than most towns and cities have.
Not with respect to this housing legislation, which almost all of it says this is binding on charter cities as well.
Good. Misery loves company.
Oh man, we're in for a roller coaster ride.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we've beat that horse up a little bit. So we have the option now of approving the minutes for February 8th.
I move to approve.
I would like to make amendments, please.
Yeah, I would too.
Please.
You want to go first, Margaret?
Okay, I think it's, February 8th. Under number 7, A, sub 1, commissioners. It says Commissioner Bandel requested a future discussion item on code enforcement. What I requested was a future discussion on short-term rentals.
I asked for code enforcements. There were 2 requests.
And you didn't make it on there, Phyllis. Right.
No, but I had something about the prior page I want to discuss. So let's clear this one up first.
All right. So Margaret, that's noted.
Okay, so it should read Commissioner Bandel requested a future discussion item on short-term rentals.
Right.
Okay. And
all right, and the other one is the previous page. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs up from the bottom, starting with George Corsonis, the son-in-law. I mean, if he wanted to make a fool of himself, he didn't need any help from me, did it? But if whomever types up these minutes puts in that there was a need for Vice Chair Metcalf to recuse herself from further discussions, it should be qualified why he thought I should do it. It could be any reason in the world, and it should read after the word discussions, because she has stated she did not think views from bathroom windows were primary.
Good point. Yeah, I think that should be.
And he also did an attack on, is it designer builder or builder designer in the last paragraph, and that isn't even shown. I don't know who types these up, but they don't seem to be getting all the information that would be needed to explain something in the minutes from the tape. I mean, he attacked, as I said, it's a builder designer, saying that he had mentioned he had spent X amount of hours and the man should show some kind of written proof of the hours he put into his designing or something.
Yeah, that goes beyond the pale.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think we want to include that in the.
Well,
it is a subject.
Yeah, you shouldn't include the fact he told me I should be recused because I wasn't worried about views from bathroom windows. That should have been left out
wide
also.
variety of opinion about how much detail you want to include in minutes. And I understand why you want this information in there, but it's really a policy call that I think a consensus of the commission needs to make as to how detailed these minutes should be. There's always something else you can add.
I don't want it word for word, 20 pages long, but I think when a member of the public or even a member of staff or the commission says so-and-so should recuse himself, there should be a reason for it if that's put in the minutes. Otherwise, leave out what he said, because what he said had nothing to do with the applicant's design and stuff. He was just someone who was contrary and was reaching out to attack anybody who didn't do what he wanted.
I thought that the inclusion of that commentary in here is unneeded, frankly. So
I agree also. It has nothing to do with the factual part of the planning commission discussion.
Certainly can be struck if
the entire, that he said I should recuse myself. I'd be saying this whether it was me or anybody else.
That's fine.
It doesn't belong there, and if it's in there, the reason why he did this should be told.
all right, would you move that that be struck from the notes?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
If you would please include that in the motion to adopt, that would be good.
I'll move to adopt with the stipulation that any comments related to Phyllis Metcalf being recused, being forced to recuse, be struck from the record, and the correction that Margaret stated in regard to asking for a review of short-term rentals.
And I asked for the review
of code enforcement.
Of the code, and it's not that, it's that of him saying I should be recused, not that I was.
We're striking it. We're striking that.
Okay, no, I'm saying
strike all of it.
Okay, I think we got it. So we can raise our hands and say aye if we approve.
Aye.
I have a motion to, all right, all in favor, good, recorded.
Aye.
Accepted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, gosh, I'm loath to say that this would be a short meeting. So, let's see, there's not enough here to lengthen this meeting till 9 or 10, so.
Oh, thank you. After the last one, that's nice.
Yeah. So thank you, guys. This is a good meeting, and I'm glad we found agreement on a project that looks good and will bring something to the town. Yes, Adam?
One thing I knew I forgot something. I talked to, I think, two of you about it, but the town is looking to go back to in-person meetings in April. So and I'll reach out separately, or I'll have Rebecca reach out as well. But be aware that that is something that is on the horizon, something that's quite exciting, I think.
Where would it?
Well, we have a room at 240 Tamil Vista Boulevard where our town hall offices are. And so it's different. It's, you know, it's an interim step, but nonetheless, I think I just wanted to let you know that is, it wouldn't just be, everything has to be, the members of the public could still attend virtually as we've been doing, but we'd also have people being able to attend in person as well. So that's it for now. Of course, in the ever-changing world that we live in, but that's the plan. And so I'll be in touch with you with more details.
Thank you, Adam. Look forward to it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's adjourn this meeting and say goodnight.
Good night.
Night.
Good night, everyone.